Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos and our video worship for Sunday, November 8th, 2020. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people and gather together in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome as part of our community. If you are coming to us for the first time through these video worships, I invite you to sign our virtual guest book and join us on our virtual fellowship hall on Facebook. The links for both of those can be found in the service notes below. If you have any questions about our community, please feel free to email me, Reverend John Cullinan. My email address is also in the service notes below. Once again, welcome and thank you for joining us for worship.
Don't leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards, and the world needs vision. Bring them with you, and your joy, and your passion. Bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing and your powers to heal. There is work to do, and you have all that you need to do it right here in this place. Come, let us worship together. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each and with all. Let us be together now in a spirit of prayer and reflection. Eternal and beloved, gracious source of all life and all love, we enter into this moment of worship grateful for this time out of time that gives us pause to reconnect and become more fully present to ourselves, to our communities, and to that which we call holy. May our joys be celebrated together, our wounds be healed together, our hearts be opened together. We arrive into this moment from different points along the emotional spectrum. For some, this election week has brought joy. Some of us still wait anxiously on a precipice. Some feel confusion. Some feel anger or despair. And some of us have felt awash in all of these. Amidst the tumult of emotion, let us remember in this pause that the work of our faith remains the same, no matter who occupies the seats of civic power. Ground us this day in our ideals, and give us the resolve to live them out loud, and do not let us sink into cynicism. Let today and every day be the first day of a new creation, built by our hands and buttressed by our hearts. Let us become the living embodiment of the old proverb, "We are the ones we have been waiting for." In this community, may we find the safety to ask hard questions, the courage to speak our needs, our fears, our hopes. May we find the strength in this community to lift one another up. and may our lives be a blessing each to the other and to the waiting and still wounded world. All this we pray in the names of those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Amen.
This is a story about not giving up. So I want to know what you all do when you just want to give up. Sometimes I really want to give up when things get too hard. So when things get super hard and you want to give up, what do you all do? I remember earlier in the summer, we talked a little about this, and Nina from our church said that when she falls off her balance beam, she gets back up and tries again. I really like that. So sometimes if something is really hard, we have to try again. Right now, in this time, a lot of us are doing something called failing. What's that? I feel like scientists do this a lot too. Right now, we are living with this thing called COVID, as you guys all know. And a lot of us do not know what we are doing in our work or our school. We're having to do things in a different way. Teachers are having to come up with new ways of teaching. Our church is doing new things so we can be a community together on the internet. We are working on how our communities can be anti-racist. We had our anti-racist family chapels earlier this summer, during the summertime, and are still working on anti-racism in our communities and in our world. And we have just been going through this very stressful election time, as some of you guys know, where a lot of people have worked and are working really hard to count everyone's votes. These people who are counting votes are not giving up because everyone's vote matters. And this takes time to count all the votes. So we are learning a lot about patience, and we keep going while we are waiting, and we keep making the world better. So a lot of us during this time are learning new ways of doing things, like our jobs or our school stuff. So a lot of the time we are failing because we're experimenting with new things and trying new things out and seeing what works and what doesn't. So we can call it failing. But one thing I do know is we are not giving up. We keep going and we keep trying new things. We keep making this world better one day at a time. So if you need some courage today or this week or this year, think about failing. We might make mistakes, but that's okay because we can learn from those mistakes and do better next time. Oh, and another thing that helps me when I feel like giving up is to read stories about people who kept going when it was hard, like the women in this book. Or I might take my journal and write down something I want to work on this week to make the world better, or some goals I have, or how I want to fail, right? So I might write that down or draw a picture. Or sometimes I put on my sparkly unicorn horn to give me courageous power to try again. Or sometimes when I have to go outside or to the store or to my hybrid school class, I put on my rainbow mask so I know I am protected and am protecting other people too. And that gives me some courage. Or maybe I put on my favorite hat, my favorite rainbow hat. Or maybe I put on my favorite rainbow cape. And maybe I get back up on that balance beam like Nina does and try again. So, what do you do to make yourself feel better when you just want to give up? Maybe you do some of the things I said. So next time you feel like giving up, maybe instead you can repeat these words to yourself. I will try. So try it with me. Repeat it with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I will try. Or you could repeat this phrase. I will keep going. So maybe you can repeat that phrase too. I will keep going. And you could repeat, we will keep going together. Right? So keep going, keep failing, and keep trying. And you can talk to your grown-ups and your parents about how you want to do that this week. All right? So we'll see you next time. A reading from the musical group Rising Appalachia. They posted this on their Instagram after the election this week and gave us permission to use it in our worship service. No matter how this whole thing swings, y'all, we will still need to show up for one another. Sharpen our tools, plant more gardens, sing more songs, resist oppressive systems. Teach our children well, learn from people who think differently than us. Take care of our elders. Speak kindly to one another. Protect this wild, wild earth and build collective solutions. This work will not end in an election. It will not end with an icon. It is a lifetime effort. It is a long haul. Rest well, rise bright-eyed, and prepare to keep going. Just keep going.
It is about 4 p.m. on Friday, the 6th of November, as I begin this recording, and the votes are still being counted. The outcome of the election is becoming more clear, but it is not yet final. And I'm going to admit that this time last week, I was not entirely sure what my message to all of you was going to be. But the day after Election Day, Wednesday morning, I woke up early and I knew wholeheartedly what I wanted to tell you this week. And I knew that no matter what the outcome was, it was going to be the same message. In fact, I dug back through my notes from my post-election sermon of 2016, and it turns out that the message is pretty much the same yet again. 4 years ago, I told the story of the Parliament of the Birds. And I told that same story again last month in my pre-election sermon. And the heart of the message of that story still stands. We are the Simurgh. We are the great golden leader that we have been looking for. Because no matter who occupies the seat of power, the power to change the world and change our nation resides in our communities and not in political parties. The people that we elect are tools for change. They are a means to a greater end and not the end in and of themselves. And what that means today, as loath as we might be to hear the message, as tired as we are of this election season, what it means is that we have work to do. But what exactly is that work? What work is left for us in the wake of this election cycle? There are three things that come immediately to mind as I have watched the aftermath of Election Day this week. My first job for my own self this week, and the job I encourage to all of you, is this: cast aside disbelief. I must cast aside my disbelief. I know I have felt in the past few days, and I know I have witnessed your own feelings over the last few days, a sense of despair and agony even over the closeness of the results as they have been counted. I know in the weeks leading up to the election, I entertained my own fantasies of a complete repudiation of the ideology that we have come to know as Trumpism, based as it is in so much hate and self-centeredness and ego. After all, I did tell you all in my pre-election sermon last month that this was going to be a referendum on the conscience of the nation. And what are the results of that referendum? They're inconclusive. I dived deep into a feeling of dread and of sorrow at the nearly 50-50 outcome of the popular vote in this election. I know many of you are feeling that too, and I have seen many ask on social media, is this who we really are as a country? Are we this deeply divided? Did half of our country really just vote to go ahead and continue all of the hatred and the bile that has been spewed into our nation over the last 4 years? And I know, I don't want that answer, and none of us wants that answer to be yes. But in the midst of all my despair this week and all of my sorrow, even as we are marching towards some sort of a victory for decency, as narrow as that might be, I made sure that I was paying attention to the voices of Black women this week. I turned to Twitter on election night, and I've been scrolling through it all the rest of this week, and scrolling on by the usual punditry and the technical answers about vote counts and percentages, to pay attention to the voices of activists like Brittany Packnett and Bree Newsom-Bass, as they spoke their own truth and amplified the truth of other Black women as they have experienced it in this country over the last 4 years and across their whole lives. And what they had to say was this: of course, this is the result of the election. We expected nothing less. These women know better than almost anyone that the history of our nation is marked and it is driven by a deep racism and by misogyny and by hatreds of others of all kinds. This was certainly the story 4 years ago with the election of Donald Trump. And that story wasn't going to change all that radically or flip around in a complete 180 in 4 years' time, especially when those worst instincts in human beings had been so eagerly fed and encouraged over these last 4 years. This is not a new story, they are telling us. This has always been the story of our country, no matter how hard we might try to find any other reason to explain why things are so deeply divided. This has always been the story, and they know it better than anyone. I took the witness of those experiences to heart this week. And while it didn't provide me with all that much comfort in the moment or allay any of the sorrow I was feeling at the evidence of this division, it certainly threw a big bucket of ice water on the pity party that I was starting to throw for myself. Because these same women who are all too aware of history, who have been hurt and disappointed by the division in our nation time and time again, who know better from the direct experience of racism and misogyny in their own lives, they show up hopeful year after year, election after election, hopeful that their work and their activism will continue to bend the arc towards justice, even if just a little. And I understood, reading that testimony more and more, that the despair I was feeling in this moment this week is absolutely legitimate and called for, but that I cannot wallow in it and I cannot check out because of it. To wallow in that despair is a luxury I have not earned, especially when those who have more than earned that despair in their lives continue to show up hopeful time and time again. Their hope, in spite of a clear-eyed acceptance of the realities of our history, calls me, demands that I suspend my disbelief over the closeness of these results. It demands that I accept once again, that I readmit into the evidence of my own life the truth of our history as a nation and how it informs the divisions of this moment. Because the second piece of work I am called to in this week, and that I hope you are called to as well, is to dismantle the effects of those very systems of hate in my soul. I have to double down on the work I am doing in understanding how white supremacy, how male supremacy, how Christian supremacy, heteronormativity, cisnormativity, all of those otherings have influenced my life. Even if I have intellectually rejected all of those forms of hatred, I need to understand just how they have shaped me and just how I have internalized them and formed them into implicit biases in my own life. I need to do that work to understand so I can begin to exercise that internalized hatred from my own self. It is absolutely uncomfortable, heartbreaking work. I have broken my own heart countless times facing the residue of this nation's hateful history in my own self. And yet it is a necessary heartbreak. To paraphrase Leonard Cohen, those cracks are how the light gets in. And friends, we need that light right now more than ever, because the third piece of work I am called to, and I hope we are all called to in this moment, is to take that light and then shine it out into the community so that we can dismantle the hate that we find there, so that we can demonstrate what our radical, unshakable, universalist love of neighbor really, absolutely looks like. It is this point that I want to stress with you most this week. Because friends, I know it has been a chaotic, exhausting 4 years. I am right there with you with the exhaustion, and I'm right there with you wanting all of this fighting amongst ourselves to be over. But, friends, I have seen a lot of very superficial love talk this week and in the weeks leading up to the election. Please for us to just get over our differences and come back together. To accept that no matter who wins, we should just move beyond our differences. And these are lovely sentiments, my friends, but implied in these messages and the memes I see them expressed in is a plea for us to just stop disagreeing out loud, friends. Just quit arguing. There's no point to it. As if what we've been doing for the last 4 years is just been having a vehement disagreement about whether or not pineapple belongs on pizza and not having a fight about people's fundamental right to exist. Because that is what has been at the heart of this fight these last 4 years and longer. And this can't we all just get along sentiment that I am seeing expressed, friends, is a false and an unearned peace, because it just simply ignores the fact that the racism that has been expressed implicitly and explicitly is a violent idea that destroys lives. That the misogyny that has been expressed implicitly and explicitly is a violent idea that destroys lives. That heteronormativity and cisnormativity and xenophobia and religious supremacy, they are all violent ideas that destroy lives. And to stop arguing against that, to fall back and say nothing in the face of all that, as violent ideas are being spewed over and over again into our communities, that, my friends, is the exact opposite of love. To say nothing is to engage in indifference and in complacency. Because the radical and unshakable love we are called into, that universalist love, is a love of the whole neighborhood. The neighborhood in all its persons. And when one neighbor's existence is threatened, it is a threat to the whole of our neighborhood. When people explicitly or implicitly threaten the neighborhood with violent ideas, it is not divisive. It is not partisan to speak out against them. It is not just politics, friends. Because those ideas are a fundamental existential threat. It is not hateful in any way to get up in someone's face to firmly, vehemently correct their deadly error when they express these violent ideas. Because even as someone professes that hatred, even as someone spews that violence, I am called to love them as they are and care for the state of their soul. And I cannot stand to witness and have my heart broken by the violence that I see in it. If I could lay a hand on and just say, I drive these demons of hate out, I would, if that were at all possible. But the work is not that simple. This is hard work. This speaking out is uncomfortable. I am not sure where to begin when I do it. I don't know where I draw the strength from to do it. And I'm going to be honest with you, today I am preaching this sermon more to myself than to anyone else, because I preach this message fully aware that I personally am the most conflict-avoidant person in any room I walk into. I hate speaking out and feeling uncomfortable about it when it's a one-on-one situation. But the truth that I need to embrace, and the truth of this division tells me I need to embrace, is that my discomfort in interpersonal conflict ultimately will not kill me where I stand. But my silence to avoid the discomfort absolutely will contribute to the very real deaths of people that I love. You are watching me say this on Sunday morning, or maybe a day later. Maybe we have an answer as to who is leading us next. Maybe not. Maybe we are still waiting. But no matter. Because this is the work that comes next, no matter who sits in the seat of power. The divisions are real. But we have to give up on the luxury of our despair. We have to accept the truth of our hateful history and the division that it sows right now in this moment. And we have to continue working to dismantle its effects on our own selves. And we have to shine a radically loving light that it might shatter that hatred in others. This is the hard work ahead. This is the same hard work that faced us 4 years ago. This, friends, has always been the work that our faith calls us to. May we once again accept our role as the Simurg. May we step into the role and become the leaders that we are looking for in this moment. And may it be so. Just 2 announcements this week before we bring the service to a close. First up, if you would like to be one of our chalice lighting families and contribute a chalice lighting video to our weekly worship, keep an eye out for emails this week from both Tina and myself for how you can sign up for one of the upcoming Sundays as a chalice lighter. And our next Soul Matters discussion circle will happen on Thursday, the 19th of this month, starting at 7 p.m. The materials for that have been shared already, and we will share them out in an email again this week. Please join us if you can. The Zoom link will be sent out just before the circle happens. And if you have any questions, please get in touch with me at the church office. And now it is time to give something of the gifts of this community back to the larger community of which we are a part. It is time for our offering. During the month of November, all monies collected through the Givelify app will be given to our partners at the Roadrunner Food Bank of New Mexico, who are providing food to hundreds of affiliated member partners around the state, including food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, and regional food banks. The offering will now be accepted. Please use your Givelify app or use the link below to make your gift. And may what you give bring you joy and a deeper relationship with this community. Friends, may life bless us and keep us. May the light of life shine upon us and out from within us and be gracious to us and bring us peace. For this is the day. This is the one wild and precious life we have been given. So let us all find a way to rejoice and be glad in it. Go in peace.